Welcome to the Midnight Book Addicts. Today we will be talking about the book, The Four Agreements, a practical guide to personal freedom, a Toltec wisdom book, authored by Don Miguel Ruiz. The Four Agreements is a powerful code of conduct based on ancient Toltec wisdom that can rapidly transform our lives into a new experience of freedom, true happiness, and love. This guides us to break free from negative patterns and fully realize our true selves. If you are new to our channel, please consider supporting us. We provide free best-selling book summaries. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon to receive new video updates. And now, back to our title, The Four Agreements.
Introduction. This book will demonstrate how ancient Mesoamerican wisdom is applicable to modern life. The Toltecs were an ancient society of artists and scientists who explored and saved spiritual knowledge from ancestors who lived in central Mexico before the Aztecs became the dominant group. They had a deep education tradition and passed on knowledge from generation to generation. As with the majority of ancient civilizations, they held a set of beliefs about the world and its inhabitants. But what can we learn from these teachings today? That's precisely what we're going to explore. You will learn how Toltec ideas and concepts can assist us in realizing our full potential, living a life of freedom, and making peace with ourselves. Here in this book, we divided it into 6 key concepts. Key concept number 1. As children, we are taught strict rules, which we force ourselves to follow as adults. Nobody gets to choose their native language, but language is not the only thing that society imposes on us. Even the content and shape of our dreams are prescribed by social norms. Everyone, for example, has individual dreams, but there is also a collective dream. This is the dream of the planet. The rules that define this collective dream are taught to us by parents, schools, religions, and other influential forces. This education teaches us proper behavior, what we ought to believe, and the distinction between good and evil. These rules and agreements were not, however, chosen by any of us. Our unquestioning acceptance of such regulations constitutes our domestication. Even if we rebelled as children, adults remained more powerful. If we disobeyed them, they could suppress our dissent and punish us accordingly. Not just that, but we were also rewarded for obeying their beliefs and following their rules. As a result, the vast majority of us surrendered. Consider the number of parents who label their children good when they obey the rules and bad when they do not. In this system, the primary reward for proper behavior is attention from parents, teachers, and friends. Obviously, receiving such a reward feels great, and we learn to adhere to these rules in order to receive it. Because we fear rejection, we often pretend to be someone we are not. As a result, at a certain point, no one needs to control us because all of these beliefs are ingrained within us. Simply put, we domesticate ourselves. When we fail to act in accordance with our ideal self-image, we punish, judge, and blame ourselves. However, there is another way. We can escape this system by establishing new agreements for ourselves, as we will see in the following key concepts. Key concept number 2. The first agreement is to never use your word against yourself or others. Did you know that impeccable comes from the Latin for sinless? Therefore, to be impeccable with your language, you must never use it against yourself, as self-harm is considered sinful. Such harm might come in the form of self-judgment or blame. You may believe you are too fat or too stupid. By harboring these thoughts, you're judging yourself and using your own words against you. Instead, you could insist on reassuring yourself of your greatness and love for yourself. Therefore, it is essential to remember that the words you use can either liberate or enslave you and others. So, although a word may appear to be a random collection of sounds, it is actually much more. Your language enables you to communicate and express yourself, but it also alters your thought process. In this way, your words can generate ideas, shape your perception of reality, and influence the opinions of others. Just think about this instance. A woman with a daughter whom she adored with all her heart was an intelligent and kind-hearted person. One day, the woman came home, only wanting some quiet time to herself. Her daughter, on the other hand, was giggling and singing loudly. She momentarily lost control and yelled at her daughter, "You have a stupid voice. Shut up." The daughter, as a result of this experience, agreed with her mother that her voice was ugly and annoying. She had trouble speaking to people and didn't sing for a while. Just goes to show how easily words can make us feel powerless. Consider how frequently you have told yourself that you are unworthy. You are indicating your acceptance and decision to follow it each time you do this. The first agreement is to refrain from using the word against yourself because of this. Next up, you'll learn about the second, to take nothing personally. Key concept number 3. If you have a strong sense of who you are, you won't have to take things personally. When was the last time someone treated you rudely and you took it personally? It probably wasn't all that long ago, which is a problem. You start unintentionally agreeing with something and taking it upon yourself as soon as it is perceived as personal, even if it has nothing to do with you. In addition, people who take things personally become mired in a false sense of importance, where they believe that everything revolves around them. This is the outcome of the domestication process that you previously learned about. It instills the habit of personalizing everything. But in truth, nothing that people say or do to you has anything to do with you. Actually, it's all about them. People have their own goals and live by their own rules. When someone calls you fat, it's not about your physical appearance, but rather the problems, viewpoints, and beliefs they hold. Thus, a person may exclaim that you are the best when they are happy, but may refer to you as the devil when they are angry. Know who you are in order to overcome this problem, since you won't have to take what others say personally then. When you are aware of yourself, you do not need to seek this knowledge from others or win their approval. Nothing they say will therefore have an impact on you. This is also useful in realizing that everyone sees the world differently, and that you should acknowledge your own point of view. Imagine being informed that your words have hurt others. They are suffering from wounds brought on by their own agreements, not from your words. In the same way, your fear is the reason you get upset when someone says something, so it's important to manage these feelings. Key concept number 4. Ask questions rather than jumping to conclusions. Have you ever assumed that a relationship you were in was seriously troubled just because the other person failed to say hello even once? Everyone experiences similar events. This is just one illustration of how assumptions lead to issues. Because when you make assumptions, you believe your thoughts must be true, and when they are not, you feel deceived. This is a serious problem because the majority of presumptions are baseless in reality. They exist only in our imaginations. So when you have difficulty understanding something, you assume you know what it means. Then, when the truth becomes clear, you see it actually has an entirely different meaning. Imagine that you're walking through a city and a beautiful person catches your eye and smiles at you. You might think that the person likes you right away and get lost in a daydream where the two of you get married. People frequently assume that their partners are aware of their innermost thoughts, which can lead to significant relationship difficulties. As a result, individuals expect their partners to act in accordance with their desires and become disappointed and angry when they do not. However, you may also make assumptions about yourself. You may believe you are capable of performing a task, and when you fail, feel bad for having overestimated your abilities, when in reality, you may have simply needed to ask more questions to succeed. So, assumptions are damaging. It would be preferable if you asked courageous questions instead. Although asking questions can be challenging, it is the only way to combat assumptions. Instead of assuming something is wrong, if a friend does not greet you, you might ask, "What's going on?" Communication is the most important factor to keep in mind in this situation. This requires asking as many questions as necessary to obtain complete clarity on the issue. By asking questions, rather than making assumptions, you will get closer to the truth. Coming up, you'll learn about the fourth, which will help you put the first three into action. Key concept number 5. Always do your best, even if circumstances are constantly changing. Do you recall your parents and teachers encouraging you to do your best as a child? Well, it's sound advice, and you should always give your best effort, whatever that may entail in a given situation. Because doing your best is always dependent on the circumstances. You will not need to blame or judge yourself as long as you give it your all. The best you can do varies from day to day. On some days, your best will be exceptional, while on others, it may not be. Consider how different you are in the morning when you are full of energy versus late at night after a long day. You must keep this in mind because you will become exhausted and depleted if you attempt to exceed your capabilities at any given time. Naturally, it will take you longer to reach your objective if you exhaust yourself, but doing less than your best will make you susceptible to self-criticism, guilt, and frustration. Therefore, to perform at your best, perform actions for their own sake. It would be ideal if you worked hard because it makes you happy, rather than because of an external incentive. An excellent illustration is salary. If your only motivation is money, you'll never give your best effort. The majority of people do their jobs for the money, and not because they enjoy them. As a result, the majority of people have jobs that feel difficult, depressing, and imposed. This lack of fulfillment compels people to engage in drinking, partying, and other less than beneficial activities on the weekend. On the other hand, if doing your best means working hard because you enjoy the task, your performance will improve and the work will become effortless. In this way, the final agreement, to always do your best, will increase the power of all the other agreements and help you to achieve personal freedom. Key concept number 6. Break old agreements and discover your freedom. Here are 3 strategies for breaking free from your old agreements now that you are aware of how they are causing you pain. The first is related to the dream you're currently having, which is also known as the dream of the first attention, because it was created using your very first attention as a child. But you're no longer a child. Today, you can start changing your dream and believing in whatever you want. You also have the benefit of beginning to notice that the things you learned as a child aren't the only truth. Because of this, you can alter your dream, decide on your beliefs, and create what's called the dream of the second attention. Begin by recognizing the fear-based beliefs that contribute to unhappiness. Then, gradually dismantle them and replace them with new beliefs, such as the 4 agreements. The second way to become free corresponds to the Toltec belief that there's a parasitic organism in control of our minds. To be liberated from this burden, you must engage in forgiveness, which eliminates the parasite's food source. Imagine having a lot of energy when you wake up. Then, after a disagreement with your partner, you feel utterly spent and entrapped in unfavorable feelings. These emotions drain your strength and make it difficult for you to improve your life or the lives of others. Furthermore, your bitterness feeds the parasite, spreading negativity. You have to forgive everyone who has hurt you, including yourself, in order to break this vicious cycle. Living each day as if it were your last is the third and final way to set yourself free. You will be able to realize that nothing you possess is absent from the present if you do this. It helps you see your ideal life more clearly. The question posed here is, do you want to spend this amazing moment worrying about what other people think of you? This is known as the initiation of the dead. For final summary, the main takeaway from this book is that society forces us to follow its rules from birth, preventing us from developing into our authentic selves. However, it is possible to break free by replacing these ingrained rules with the ancient Toltec 4 agreements.
If you enjoyed this awesome helpful video, please subscribe to our channel. Click the subscribe button below. Read, listen, or watch summaries anytime, anywhere, and be a happy lifelong learner for free. Please let us know by leaving a comment for any book recommendation, and we at Midnight Book Addicts will be delighted to include it in our upcoming videos.